Okay, following up on the video that I made yesterday, I saw this just released. It's 11:49 that this was released. I'm not even 100% certain if this is accurate because right now it's 12:34. It says, President of the United States of America, in keeping with my campaign promise, my administration is announcing a plan to give working and middle-class families breathing room as they prepare to resume federal student loan payments in January 2023. I'll have more details this afternoon. So this is early, and this looks like an official release from the White House. It says the Biden administration student loan debt plan, forgiving debt, $20,000 if you went to college on Pell Grants, $10,000 if you didn't receive Pell Grants. Forgiveness only applies to those earning less than $125,000. Student loan pause extended one final time through December 31st, 2022. Payment based on income. If you have undergraduate loans, you can cap repayment at 5% of your monthly income, which means that if it was normally going to take 10 years to pay it off, now it's going to take twice as long, or at least twice as long. So that's the statement that was released. But right now, I'm looking on Yahoo, and I'm going to take you to Yahoo so that we can see what it actually says. Biden cancels $10,000 in student loans. Debt will be canceled for borrowers making under $125,000. Now, that unofficial release that we just saw said 20. So let's read through this to check and see if any of this is accurate. So this is what Yahoo's saying. This is 11:38 a.m. President Biden on Wednesday announced he's canceling $10,000 in student loan debt for Americans making under $125,000 a year, fulfilling a campaign promise and garnering criticism from across the political spectrum. Of course it is. Loan forgiveness was one of the Biden campaign's promises, writing in March 2020 that his economic recovery plan included an immediate cancellation of a minimum of $10,000 of student debt per person. The mistake that he made was promising a specific number. He locked himself into that $10,000. But then again, it's taxpayer money. It's not like it's his money. He could give a fuck. $300 billion? Why not spend $600 billion? So anyway, in late May, the Washington Post reported that the administration was set to cancel the same amount of debt for Americans making under $150,000, but the White House denied that report at the time. A borrower will be eligible if their income was below the cap in either 2020 or 2021. Current students will be eligible based on their parents' income. According to the details of the plan released by the administration, borrowers will have to pay no more than 5% of their discretionary income monthly on undergraduate loans. First of all, you ain't got no discretionary income because between the gas prices and the food increases, you ain't got no discretionary income. So anyway, down from 10%, and will have their And now, I think that's important to note, the reason why they say down from 10%. Here in New York State, if you default on a loan, they can take up to 10% of your wages via garnishment. I got garnished when I was in college on a Discover card. I owed those bastards $5,000. I was ignoring them when they were calling me. And I ended up losing whatever the judgment was that they put against me. And I ended up owing these bastards that $5,000, which was taken out of my paychecks through garnishment, through my Social Security number. I paid them off, and that was it. To this day, I don't have another Discover card. When Discover sends me cards in the mail, I just burn the paperwork. I wish they'd stop sending stuff, but I just set it on fire. I use it as tinder, like when I'm barbecuing. Okay, and will have their unpaid monthly interest covered as long as they're making payments. It will also forgive loan balances after 10 years of repayment for those with balances of $12,000 or less. It will also forgive loan balances after 10 years of payment for those with balances of $12,000 or less. Down from 20 years. While the individual cap is $125,000, households earning under $250,000 will be eligible. Additionally, Pell Grant recipients making under $125,000 will be eligible for an additional $10,000 forgiveness. Biden also announced he will extend the moratorium on student debt payments through the end of the year. Past November's midterm elections. The current pause, which was put in place at the beginning of the pandemic, is set to expire on August 31st. The progressive wing of the Democrat Party, as well as Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and Senator Warnock, who faces a tough re-election bid, were among those pushing for Biden to forgive $50,000. If you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to want a glass of milk. Throughout the public and private pressure campaign, the White House has touted its efforts to help with student loan debt through its work with the Public Service Loan Forgiveness and the income-driven repayment plans. According to an April report from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, the forgiveness of $10,000 per borrower would forgive a total of $321 billion of federal student loans. Eliminate the entire balance for 11.8. It would eliminate the entire balance for 11.8 million borrowers, 31.1%, and cancel 30.5% of loans delinquent in default prior to the pandemic forbearance. However, means testing in this fashion could end up excluding low-income Americans who do not file taxes but still have student loan debt, as well as creating potential issues with the Education Department lacking access to tax data. The move is seen as an attempt to earn the support of young voters. The move is seen as an attempt to buy votes for Democrats who should be getting their asses kicked in November, with whom Biden saw his approval rating plummet earlier this year, particularly those who are Black and Hispanic, as action on issues like climate and marijuana legalization stalled. The move is seen as an attempt to buy votes from Blacks and Hispanic voters. Many Democrats have urged the president to take action on student loans, calling it a moral and political obligation. The real moral and political obligation is not to spend the taxpayers' money on moral hazards such as borrowing money haphazardly, signing promissory notes, and no intention of paying it back, or allowing degrees to exist that give me no chance of getting a job to pay the loans back. Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas Warren, said that student loan debt cancellation was an issue that could help Democrats in November. Yeah. Oh, no, wait. Oh, no. Let me read that again. Pocahontas. No, hold on. Let me read that again. Pocahontas said that student loan debt cancellation was an issue that could help Democrats buy votes in November. Doing so would lift the economic outlook for too many borrowers who still weren't able to get a college diploma. For the millions of female borrowers hold more than 2/3 the total student loan debt. So this was not just to buy the votes of Black and Hispanic voters, but this was also an attempt to buy the woman's vote, just like what they did with Roe versus Wade. You see, when I read it, it sounds different than that bullshit you hear on CNN and MSNBC from Rachel Madcow and those losers who I can't even name because I don't pay enough attention to them. So anyway, where are we? For the millions of female voters who shoulder about 2/3 of all student loan debt, and for Black voters and Hispanic voters, a higher percentage of whom vote Democrat. That's how I read this sentence. That's what I see. And have a harder time paying it off after school, wrote Warren. With the stroke of a pen, the president could make massive strides to create more inflation than last year. Democrats cannot bow to the wisdom of out-of-touch consultants who recommend we simply tout our accomplishments. Let me read that again. Democrats cannot bow to Republican voters or the NAACP, who is a mouse asking for a glass of milk after you give them a cookie. Instead, Democrats need to deliver more of the president's leftist agenda, or else we will not be in the majority much longer, past November. So we're trying to buy votes for November so that we don't get our asses handed to us when we lose our majority and end up lame ducks for the next 2 years. That's what I see. That when I'm reading, this is what I see. The plan has faced opposition from Republicans who have said it's unfair to those who paid off their loans, like me, and is potentially dangerous, which will cause inflation, although student loan payments have been paused since nearly 2020. The Republican National Committee was already attacking the plan as a handout to the rich earlier this week. President Biden's student loan socialism is a slap in the face to every family who sacrificed to save for college, every graduate who paid their debt, and every American who chose a career path or volunteered to serve in our armed forces in order to avoid taking on debt. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said in a statement. Let me read that again. President Biden's student loan socialism is a slap in the face to every family who sacrificed to save for college, every graduate who paid their American debt, and every American who chose a career path or volunteered to serve in their armed forces in order to avoid taking on debt. The proposal has managed to draw blowback from some on the left for not going far enough. Derek Johnson, president of the NAACP, has criticized the $10,000 proposal as bad public policy and a devastating political mistake. We are fed up, Johnson wrote in an op-ed for CNN released on Wednesday. The NAACP has been calling for a minimum of $50,000 in student loan debt cancellation because our research indicates it is what is necessary to make a meaningful difference. The goal should be to see the most amount of relief for the highest number of borrowers. It's been a consistent criticism from Johnson, who said in May that canceling $10,000 in student loan debt is like pouring a bucket of ice water on a forest fire. After the last extension of the pause on student loan payments, After the last extension of the pause on student loan payment collections in April, Johnson issued a statement saying, President Biden, this is a racial justice issue. It is an economic justice issue. It is a moral issue. The moral issue is not giving you a fucking dime. Canceling $50,000 is the single best way you can drastically reduce the racial wealth gap. All with the stroke of a pen. No. Canceling it is the way you increase the wealth gap. But since you never took real economics and all you know is this leftist socialism bullshit, you wouldn't understand that. It's not as if watching those stimulus checks create 40-year high inflation taught us anything. But you wouldn't know that because in your job, the people who are stupid enough to write your checks, who put you in position of power. Same going for you, Pocahontas. And the same going for Mr. I'm going to fall off my bicycle today. Y'all wouldn't know that because you're spending taxpayer money to buy votes come November. So there you have it. This is considered an accomplishment now. This is actually, believe it or not, they consider this an accomplishment. I spent $320-something thousand of taxpayer money to bail out people who haphazardly took out loans. This is an accomplishment now. I'll be voting Republican come this November. I hope the rest of you who can hear the sound of my voice will join me.